So last lesson we talked about the representativeness heuristic, and there's actually another one that is also oftentimes employed. This one is known as the availability heuristic. This is when we estimate the likelihood of events based on their availability in memory. If instances come readily to mind, possibly because of their vividness, we presume such events are common. So a couple of examples of this one. As we know, there are a lot more people who are scared of riding in an airplane than there are of people who are scared of riding in a car. And so the question is, why? Because logically, unfortunately, more people are hurt or injured in a car crash than they are in a plane crash. The availability heuristic explains this because it says, yes, while more people might injure themselves in cars, we can more readily think of horrific plane crashes. Those capture the public imagination more, they're on the news more, they're more vivid, therefore they're more readily available, and so that's why more people tend to be scared of planes as opposed to cars. A second example. People in an experiment are told, okay, imagine you are given a random sample of a textbook. In this sample, is it going to be more common to find words that start with the letter K? Or is it more likely to find words that have the third letter as the letter K? What researchers have found is the most common response when given this question is people say it's going to be more likely and it's going to be more common to find words starting with the letter K. Now, if you look at this from a probability standpoint, and if you analyze textbooks, for example, it is actually way more common to run into words which have K as the third letter. However, it's easier to think of examples of words that start with the letter K, and so we have a tendency, therefore, to go with what is more available in our minds, and so we can more easily list, okay, I can think of all of these words that start with K. It's hard to think of words that have the third letter as K. Therefore, I think we're more likely to find more words that start with K, even though this is an error in judgment. Final example that happens when we are sometimes judging people. When we are judging a person, we tend to draw upon our maybe most vivid experience with that person or the one which has happened most recently. So my example here is going to be based on teacher ratings because I'm a teacher, so obviously that makes sense for me to think of this. But for you, you can relate it to how you interpret your friends, to how you maybe judge your relationship with your parents. I found, and a lot of my teacher friends have found, that when we give out our teacher rating kind of things at the end of the year, when you have to do like class evals, depending on what you have just done most recently in the class is going to really change the type of review you get back. If I have just given a really, really hard test, I get a lot of harsh criticisms. If I have just stood at the doorway and handed out like Snickers and Milky Way and candy bars, I get a lot of positive ratings because the availability heuristic says that we're going to judge someone or something based on the most readily available information. So if you are asked, by someone like, oh, like, tell me about your parents. Like, what do you think about your parents? Do you have a good relationship with them? Maybe you just had a horrible fight with them and you're really angry and you say, oh my gosh, I hate my parents. They just don't understand me. And so you draw upon what's most readily available. If you've just gone on a family vacation and it's been awesome, you've had a really good time, you're more likely to say, my parents are great. Like, sure, maybe sometimes we get into arguments, but they're really great people and we really get along. So the availability heuristic is saying that we are going to say things are more likely and we're going to judge things based on what most easily comes to mind.